Welcome everyone to the Shitlord Preachers podcast. This is episode 24. We do
Yes.
apologize. We were off air last week. We had a bit of a scheduling mix-up with our guest Mackenzie. We just something happened. We're going to be rescheduling her to hopefully next Monday, but today on Sunday we're having a special guest on today. But just real quick, just to introduce myself, my name is Amos Joseph. Joined by my friend here, Brook Potter in the UK, myself here in Minnesota in the US. We are the Shitlord Preachers. Basically, we used to be preachers. We've known each other a few years. We kind of moved on from that and started having discussions about politics, and realized that a lot of these conversations would go really well, especially with just between us and other guests we eventually realized on a stream. So I'll let Brook introduce himself real quick, and then we'll get into the stream here.
Thank you, Amos. As I was telling Amos before, and as he rightly said, my name is Brook Potter, originally from the Twin Island nation of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. And I moved out here into the UK, and I've been making a life for myself out here for the last year. And yeah, just to recap on what Amos is saying, a lot of the discussions that are happening in politics has a lot of the same cognitive dissonance and other things that we've seen in the realms of religion. And politics seems to have a much bigger reach than religion, so it's a much more important conversation to have. And yeah, so we started to have these conversations, and we thought, hey, maybe some people might be interested in hearing our views. And we've met some great people who share, and even some who disagree with us. And it's been quite an adventure. So this is number 23. Here's to a lot more of that.
24.
24, right? Oh, even better.
But today we're starting our series of streams with a good friend of ours, Josh, over there at Sarcasm and Liberty. If you guys look back on our streams, I think it's either between like 15 or 20. It's one of them we did. Anyways, we basically had our friend Josh of Sarcasm and Liberty. He was a Twitter account that I had found online. Basically, we had him on the stream. And as time has gone by in the past few months here, he's assembled a team of others who are also liberty-minded that help him with whether it's memes, managing specific social media accounts, and eventually, I guess they're going to be doing more articles in the future, as well as merchandise, hopefully. But we're joined by one of his, I guess I would say, more prominent members who's been more active lately, Mike, the Ginger. Liberty, right? Liberty Ginger. There we go.
The Liberty Ginger. Yep.
The Liberty Ginger.
Yes.
Mike is basically runs. Till recently, he started running a lot of the streams. Josh, the sort of their team leader, I guess, the guy kind of running things. Him and his brother. He had to take a couple of times. He had to take short hiatuses, little breaks, and Mike basically took over the streams, which I have participated in a few of them. But we'll hand it over to Mike here. Let him introduce himself, and then we'll get going.
All right. First off, thanks for having me on today. My name is Mike Ursery, aka the Liberty Ginger. You probably know me from the host of the Wednesday night Sarcasm and Liberty live stream. I've been doing that for about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, I'd say. It's been about a month and a half or so. I recently became an admin for Sarcasm and Liberty. Did that that started about 2 months ago. I've been helping out with the Facebook page, and just recently started hosting the Wednesday night live stream. My day job, I am a sports editor at a small newspaper in Missouri, so I kind of go back and forth between the two.
But well, yeah, it's always awesome to have guests on. We haven't had one in a while, but this is, like I said, this will be the first of many great streams we'll be having. But one of the things we do every time we have a guest on is we want to talk about something, whether it's liberty, something in the realm of liberty discussions, or just any issue in general. We like talking about just about anything. But we wanted to I wanted to see what Mike really enjoys talking about, and you were saying I guess freedom of expression as a pretty broad topic. We agreed on, but it's something basically that you find you're most passionate about.
Absolutely. the freedom to express yourself the way, I mean, you know, expressing your own thoughts, your own opinions, your own views. I mean, we all should be free to express what we think about the world. Even if you don't agree with it, you should at least respect it. As I was saying, I'm a sports editor. I'm very big into sports. Well, this coming week, the NFL season begins, and I don't know if you've noticed or not, but with football starting now for year number 3, the national anthem, I guess you want to call it controversy, is back in the news once again. I don't know. You guys maybe saw something about that?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of things.
I haven't followed football too closely in a while, but then again, that tends to be the only thing you really hear about from football is this whole kneeling controversy.
It's unfortunate.
What was the player's name that started this whole thing? Is Kaepernick?
Colin Kaepernick.
Okay,
yeah,
Colin
Kaepernick.
Yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick rundown on it. 2 years ago, Colin Kaepernick, he wanted to find a way to protest police brutality and the treatment of people of color, and he wanted to find a way to bring attention to it. Well, he's a football player. If he wants to use his own platform for it, it's going to be the football field. So during a preseason game in 2016, he started taking a knee during the national anthem, and the outcry was very mixed. There are some people who agreed with him and praised him for it, and there are people who disagreed with him and just, I mean, for a little while there on social media, all hell broke loose because that's all you talked about. Not even on social media, but just in the media in general. I mean, every cable news channel was covering it. Every football game you watched, they showed the national anthem just so they could show players taking a knee. It was a real circus, and it was completely ridiculous.
And how many? That was 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago, and here we are. And really, I mean, yeah, football's starting, so we're talking about it again. You even have some players who are probably going to take a knee during the national anthem. You also see some who will raise a fist in the air.
Okay.
Because that's not, indicating anything at all.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason for that is because I think some owners didn't want their players taking a knee, so they still wanted to protest in some way. So if they were told they had to stand, well, there you go.
Okay.
Now, wasn't there also something about players who could stay in the locker room too? There was that for a little bit too.
They talked about that as a rule. They were talking about making a rule that you had the choice to either to walk outside for the national anthem, but if you were out there, you had to stand. But if you didn't want to stand for the national anthem, you could stay in the locker room until after the anthem was played. And it's kind of funny that you actually bring that up because do you remember the whole paid patriotism thing with the NFL?
No.
Okay, well, basically, the Department of Defense was giving money to NFL teams to honor the military before games, and people found out about it, and it was called paid patriotism or pay for patriotism.
Wow.
And then up until that point, whenever they sang the national anthem, they wouldn't bring the teams out on the field until after the anthem was played. But once they started doing this, they started to bring the teams out before the national anthem, and they would stand out there and be a part of the fanfare. So, and now here we are.
So was it, I guess, was it considered a scandal by any means?
I don't know if you call it a scandal. It's a very irresponsible use of tax dollars. I'll say that.
Yeah. No, I'll give you that. I'm just thinking like what is, I mean, why would you, yeah.
I mean, every branch of the government has a PR department, right? And believe me, the U.S. military's got one of the biggest, right? So they got Hollywood in on this. They've got, the media, sports. So I'm not entirely surprised by that, but yeah, I agree. It's a waste of money, man. It's not needed.
I mean, you really see. I guess if you want to look at it, the NFL would be the most commercially profitable sport that we have that's on TV.
It's the biggest audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep. Football is the most popular sport in the country.
So why not exploit it with tax dollars in some way? If I mean, dare I say, make it some sort of propaganda machine.
Yeah, and people started people were saying that this was a subsidy. I mean, it really wasn't a subsidy. It was government money, obviously, but I mean, this wasn't the government subsidizing the NFL. This is really just the U.S. government paying for PR through the NFL.
No, I wouldn't call it. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say I wouldn't call this a scandal by any means, but I mean, people were upset over it, and rightfully so. I mean, you're paying taxes to the U.S. government, and you expect them to, well, it's kind of funny to say that, but you expect them to put that money to good use. They don't always do that, but this is what apparently it was. See, NPR said it was $6.8 million total. So $6 million of taxes went to the NFL. Of course, the NFL really didn't need $6 million because the NFL does just fine.
That's pretty great. I mean, isn't there sponsorship in the NFL nonetheless? I mean, kind of raises the question.
Oh yeah, you have the U.S. Army sponsoring them.
Oh yeah.
Sure, I would have said if they want to sponsor, maybe that might be better than trying to get people to perform, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean you see, NFL postseason brings in about, well over $1 billion. Wow. TV contracts, sponsorships. I mean, TV networks will pay tons to air the Super Bowl. Yeah. I mean, the Super Bowl is watched around the world, so whoever hosts that each year is gonna have to pony up, because that's probably the biggest sporting event in the world besides the World Cup.
Probably, yeah. So sorry, Amos, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I said because we're talking about subsidies, I couldn't help but the image in my head was windmills being built on football stadiums. Right when you were drinking water, Mike.
Amos, try not to kill our guests,
I'm just thinking, they're gonna put solar panels, windmills.
Could you imagine that?
Get some testings out there.
Just they're doing a punt and it hits a windmill. The ball gets shredded.
That's crazy, man.
Can you imagine that?
So, Mike, I was going to ask you, man, how did you get into, liberty-minded thinking and your passion for sports?
Well, oh gosh, I've been watching sports since let's see, when I was 4 years old. I was born in California, in San Diego, and when I was 4, my dad took me to my first baseball game, and I instantly fell in love with it. I mean, I fell in love with baseball instantly. Since then, I've been a big fan of the San Diego Padres. It's been a very torturous ride because, well, anybody who knows the Padres, I'll leave it at that. But and then, I grew up watching sports with my dad. My dad was a cop, and he worked a lot of hours. And I mean, he really wasn't the outdoors type. Whenever he did have time off, he would sit in his chair and he would watch whatever was on TV, baseball, football, basketball, be it. And I did that with him. So when he was home, that was our bonding time. We sat, we're both big baseball fans, big fans of college football. And because of that, I just became really big into sports. I realized that I really enjoyed talking about it. I was really knowledgeable about it. Around the time in high school, I realized I kind of had the knack for writing. Went to college, got a journalism degree, and now I'm a sports editor. So as far as liberty-minded.
Yeah, the liberty side.
I
you were raised in California, so weren't you a communist?
Well, oh, no. The reason why I was born in California is my dad was in the Navy. So I was a Navy brat. He retired when I was 5. He's from Arkansas. So when he retired, my family moved to Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
Oh, nice.
And that's where I grew up. I grew up in a very conservative household, very religious household. I grew up far right, and I stayed far right.
Literally far right, like as we understand it today, not just as a blanket term.
Well, maybe not as we understand it today, but you think about far right in the 90s.
Okay.
Up through like
just
early
to
2000s.
be clear.
Who would be like a modern day comparable politician, like a political view?
Right. Yeah.
No, but who would you say is comparable to your far right today?
Oh, far right today. Let's see. Oh gosh. Definitely not Donald Trump, because Trump's not even right.
We're not exactly sure where he is.
Well, I was a big fan of George Bush. I'll tell you that.
Cool.
So George W. Bush.
The first or the second?
The second.
The second. W.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, every far right, everything that far right people got excited about, I was getting excited about it. National defense, pro traditional marriage, and I kind of up until what did it for me was the 2012 election. The election in 2012, for one, I started learning a little bit more about Ron Paul. It seems like Ron Paul is the guy who brings all the people to the liberty movement. You ever notice that?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. And then really just seeing how they nominated Mitt Romney and learning about Mitt Romney. And if you think about it, this is the guy that they nominate. And from then, it's like I kind of became disenfranchised from the GOP. That's kind of because the GOP you kind of start to see it for what it is. I mean, they really don't champion a lot of these conservative views like they claim to. And ever from then, I started evolving from a Republican more into a libertarian.
Right.
And
it was based on Ron Paul and his positions.
And it's around the same time, 2012, I also discovered Austin Peterson, and Austin Peterson also has some responsibility for my evolution as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And your family, they're okay with your newfound libertarian views, or have you been ostracized?
Oh yeah. Oh no, not at all, not at all, not at all. No, they are very respectful of my libertarian viewpoints. Awesome. We don't always see eye to eye on certain things, but we just it's not an issue for us at all. So
that's good.
It tends to be the case when you're in a right-leaning family that being libertarian is not that. It's definitely different, but it's not. It's just that. It's just you're different. You're not like
a Nazi.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
Because we're Nazis now.
Yeah. I will say that my parents are not Democrats, so I mean, if my parents were Democrats, then that would probably be Christmas dinner would probably be very awkward if they were. But.
So yeah, getting back to the Kaepernick issue then. So what is your view? Do you think he should have been allowed to do that? Take it away.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that at all. I mean, for one thing, well, I sent you guys an article that I wrote 2 years ago for my job. I wrote a column about this whole thing, and I basically explained in my column my own view about it. Like in the column, I say that I choose to stand for the national anthem, but then I also put a thing in there. I said, notice that I use the word choose. I choose to stand. There's no requirement to stand for the national anthem. If you don't want to stand for it, you don't have to stand for it. I mean, and Kaepernick's not doing it just to be a jerk or just to intentionally make people upset. He's doing it because he's doing it for something that he believes in, and that's the way that he chose to do it. If he does, so be it. I'm a military veteran, and one thing I can't stand is when people say that it's disrespectful to the military. No, it's not. Because the military, you swear an oath to the Constitution and you're fighting for freedom. Well, one of those freedoms is the freedom to express yourself freely, which is covered in the First Amendment, is it not?
Yep.
So this is not disrespectful to the military. Instead, look at it as you're exercising a freedom that you have now because we have a military.
Correct.
And that's one thing I really can't stand. And I love the reaction that I get from people whenever I tell them I'm a veteran. I don't care that Kaepernick takes a knee, because I really don't.
Yeah, that's
what do you get?
Because if you're a veteran, you're just expected to hate it, you know?
Right. I mean, there was a Twitter campaign 2 years ago called Veterans for Kaepernick. I didn't endorse it just because I don't really get any campaigns like that. But I wouldn't say I was in that camp, but I mean, I was of that same mindset that I support Kaepernick's right to protest, even if it's during the national anthem. The reaction that I get from some people, I get kind of like, I might get a strange look, or they just double down on their, well, it's disrespectful to the military. It's not disrespectful to me.
Right, right.
But not to go too far, Amos, I'll let you. But I really have this burning question. So, the NFL is a private corporation, isn't it?
Yes.
And they can dictate the rules to their players. Would you not agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they want to dictate that rule, they can. But I mean, if they don't dictate that rule and they're free to do it, let them do it.
Okay. And has the NFL suffered? I heard there was like less viewership or something because of the controversy.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's go ahead and go over that since you asked. Yes, the NFL has seen a decline in ratings. Listen.
Okay.
The NFL has seen a decline in ratings. It is not because of any boycott. I mean, there are people, I mean, you saw all the videos, I'm sure, of people burning their jerseys and burning their memorabilia and swearing off the NFL. That number is actually very small.
Right.
The NFL is facing a dilemma right now, and it's not because of the national anthem. They are facing a dilemma because of technology and the way that we view media. I don't know if you ever sat down and watched an entire NFL game before, but it takes 3.5 hours. There's tons of commercials. There's a halftime. And a lot of times, I mean, you play 4 quarters. It might be a blowout. It might be a very slow, boring game. It just depends on how each game plays out. You have a choice of either sitting down and watching an entire 3.5-hour game, or you can wait a little while and watch a condensed version with all the most exciting parts after the game is over. People are kind of going for the latter. People are going for the latter.
That's interesting.
So the NFL has not, now the NFL is kind of trying to adapt to live streaming options. I mean, this isn't just the NFL. This is really TV as a whole. That's really suffering. I mean, you have things like Netflix, you have Hulu, Amazon Prime. You can watch, you can binge watch, as they say. You can watch. I mean, well, Hulu has commercials, which I think is kind of stupid. Netflix is talking about introducing commercials. The great thing about Netflix is there are no commercials. But,
exactly. I don't even watch commercials on YouTube. Why would I want it on Netflix when I'm paying for it?
Exactly. I hit skip ad.
Yeah.
I hit the skip ad button every time I can.
Netflix, you can even skip intro, which is even better.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, absolutely. So I mean, yeah, the NFL has seen a decline in ratings, but it's not because of a boycott. It's because of the way that we watch TV.
Right.
So this whole kneeling thing is really a non-issue. I mean, it should be a non-issue. I know that our president likes to keep his base excited by bringing it up at every rally that he goes to. And his base gets really excited over that. And his base are the ones who are upset with NFL players who are taking a knee. But this really should not even be an issue.
Would you say that the political nature that has become I guess the NFL becoming so political, would you say that is? I mean, because I think there's got to be more than just a kneeling issue. I mean, I think in general, when half of your sports, your sports center, if half of it is highlights, the other half is politics. Do you think that could change the viewership? I mean,
You mean the commentary, the after-game commentary?
Yeah, the commentary.
ESPN?
What's that?
Oh, you're talking about things like on ESPN and things like that.
Yeah. I mean,
sports shows.
You think a lot of the political nature that has been, I'd say, infesting the NFL and sports. I mean, sports in general have some politics. It's usually regarding okay, how does this franchise owner feel about this and that? But then it's all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we're going to talk about the president tweeting about football. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I just want
to. ESPN might be suffering because of that. I wouldn't say that's the reason why. I mean, ESPN is kind of falling victim to this whole viewer preference thing as well. I mean, things like, I don't know if you're familiar with the show on ESPN called SportsCenter. SportsCenter. When I was growing up, I mean, SportsCenter started at 5 a.m. and it went on till about noon, and it was an hour long, but they would just play that same hour over and over again. And people tuned into SportsCenter because they wanted to see highlights. Well, now you can see highlights without watching SportsCenter. There are plenty of ways to find highlights now. You can go online. You can go to ESPN's website to see highlights now. But as far as the whole political thing, I think it's extremely annoying. I watch sports because I want to escape politics. That is my way of tuning out the world and being entertained for a few hours. It's something that I really enjoy, and I could do without the political, I guess what you want to call it, the hot political nature that we see on a daily basis.
You want ESPN, you don't want ESPNN.
Exactly. That's good. ESPNN.
For those who may not know, he's mocking CNN, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I caught that. Yeah, that's really good.
Brilliant.
That is good. ESPNN.
I mean,
CNN is suffering, aren't they? Right, so it's probably an apt comparison. Yeah.
I mean, the running joke is, what happens if you turned off all the TVs at the airports? CNN would go off the air.
It's true. Every American airport is CNN, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, that's been a joke. I mean, you'll see. Yeah. The only place I ever saw Fox News at a public place was at a McDonald's in Texas.
Interesting.
So, yeah. I mean, you really look at news as a whole, and you don't really see people sitting down and watching news. I mean, I'll see it every now and then, maybe at someone's house, but for the most part, people are getting their news through alternative means, whether they just hear about it on Twitter. Mm-hmm. I mean, people tweeting about one thing in a short time period tends to be more reliable news than the article that comes after, an hour or two after it actually happened. I'd say, but
it cuts both ways though, because you could get things wrong with the tweets, but it's a fair point.
Yeah, just you can cross-reference between the tweets and kind of see what is making sense, what isn't. Whereas you have an article that's been kind of, that's maybe a little more well-rounded, I'll give you that, but then sometimes it can be kind of a spin too. The spin factor is there, but anyways, so I guess what would you say would be a big thing that the NFL, I mean, besides the technology part, is the NFL going to be viable anymore as just a real, being taken seriously as just sports, a sport league? Because now it's just politics is in it. These players are becoming activists rather than athletes.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that players are becoming activists. so to say. I mean, really, they're doing it because, you know, if this whole thing went away, then it would just go away. And it's not really the NFL players themselves that are keeping it alive. It's people outside the NFL. You know, Donald Trump is keeping it alive. His supporters are keeping it alive. The media is keeping it alive. NFL players are there for one purpose, and they're there to just play football. And most of the people who still watch the NFL are watching it because they want to watch football. They're not watching it to watch people take a knee. They're watching it to watch people play a game. And the people who are playing that game worked their whole lives to get there. That's been their dream. And now they're there doing what they want, and they're getting paid a really nice salary doing it, which is good for them. But I mean, I wouldn't say that this is going to hurt the NFL that much. And as much as we try to inject politics into it, the NFL is still the NFL. It's still football. And how can I put this? It's still football, and we're going to watch it still just to watch people play football, not because of the whole national anthem issue. I mean, if you look at last season, when last season started, the kneeling controversy was really big. And I mean, I would watch games around the first few weeks of the season, and they would zoom in on players who were kneeling. After a while, people just stopped talking about it, and it went away. I mean, right. By the time the Super Bowl happened, nobody mentioned it. But here we are again, and people are once again talking about it.
That's now. Cool. Is there any other sport that has this kind of controversy going on?
I was just going to ask that.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah.
Major League Baseball. There was one baseball player for the Oakland Athletics who did it. Let me find his name. He did it. It really wasn't that big of a deal. He did it for like one game, I think. But he's not really the, I don't want to say polarizing, but the polarizing. He hasn't had that polarizing factor that Colin Kaepernick had.
Right.
That's now, do you think that the NFL could become sort of like a second Hollywood? So in terms of like, so you have individuals who are celebrities basically making lots of money, trying to basically, I'll just say, spew some sort of activism on top of their athletic, being recognized as an athlete. I mean, we hear all the time about Hollywood actors and celebrities are just going on about their political ideas. Do you think that the NFL could become another one of those? Sort of like, I mean, what would be the NFL equivalent of Hollywood in terms of a city?
Oh.
Like, what would you have basically Hollywood 2.0, but in the NFL?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Just because I don't think NFL players are as annoying as Hollywood actors. I mean, you don't see like if you see NFL players doing interviews, they're talking about something pertaining to what they do. Whereas if you watch the Oscars or the Academy Awards or any of those award shows, even here recently, what was it, the MTV Video Music Awards? It was just, everything was just anti-Trump. Everything was something to do with politics. You don't see that in the NFL, but you do see that from Hollywood celebrities.
Right. Huh. I was going to say, I'm thinking...
Best narcissist in sports.
Oh, no, football players are definitely narcissists. They're just narcissists about their skill, wouldn't you say? They're not really narcissists about too much other things.
Yeah. Right, yes.
Fair point.
Exactly.
I mean, is your entertainment news of the future going to be, and today from Hollywood, and from Canton, Ohio, or something. So, I'll just explain this to everyone. Canton, Ohio is where the NFL Hall of Fame resides.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
So from Canton, Ohio, a statement has come out about Donald Trump Jr.
That's funny. So Mike, as a fan of sports, you're not bothered by people using the platform for political reasons.
No, I mean,
would you put any limits on it?
Well, I mean, if it was constantly in my face, I would tune it out.
Right.
I mean, if like say for example, if some guy scores a winning touchdown and they interview him after the game and he says maybe a word or two about scoring the touchdown and, oh, by the way, we need to do something about climate change and we need to do something about police brutality and we need to do something about click.
Right.
I mean, but then again, I mean, yeah, they can still do that, but I just wouldn't watch. But I mean, I guess no, I wouldn't put any limits on that.
I mean, would you say if a group of players decided to disrupt the game, like I know Black Lives Matter did this with Bernie Sanders. They basically shut down one of his rallies. So I mean, would you endorse that? Like if a team basically said, "We're not playing, we're shutting this game down because of some political reason," that's all right?
I would not watch. I would let the NFL deal with that.
Yeah, but they could do it, but yeah, you'd kind of lose interest.
They would lose. Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
That's true freedom of expression, man. That's pretty serious.
Yeah.
I would not watch. That would be extremely annoying if they did it during the game. But I mean, there are NFL players who do support things like Black Lives Matter, and they're free to do that. And one thing, because there's another thing too, that an argument that people will make is that these are millionaires. These are people who are not affected by these issues that they're standing up for. Well, they're still standing up for it, one, but two, and then they'll say that they're doing this for attention. Well, no, they're not, because a lot of NFL players are philanthropists, and this, like, the part that you don't see is that a lot of these guys are in their own communities, and they are trying to actually make a difference. Colin Kaepernick, he donates a lot to charity. He owned like so many pairs of shoes, and he donated shoes that he had that he wasn't wearing. He donated it to people who couldn't afford shoes.
Right.
So I mean, a thing you don't see is that, a thing you don't see is a lot of these NFL players are trying to make it. They're not just taking a knee just for attention. They're actually, a lot of them do try to make a difference, and they do follow through with, they're not just protesting just to protest. They're actually trying to do something about the things that concern them.
So I mean,
which I think is
what would concern an NFL player then? I mean, they're not obviously going to have the same issues as everyone else.
No, but I mean, if you look at where a lot of these guys come from, they might have come from inner cities. They came from. You might have some who I mean, sometimes you read stories about guys who grew up poor, guys who grew up in inner cities, guys who grew up. They were considered at risk because of the environment that they were brought up in. They made it out and found success, and now they go back to their communities and try to give back to where they came from.
Good, nice.
Definitely had a little bit of that. At least I remember there was a NFL player that I won't say who, but there is an NFL player from my hometown who played in a Super Bowl. And he did a little bit of philanthropy, I guess. What he had done is he went to the local golf course and basically he funded some like charity tournaments But what he would do is he was able to get his hands on like team signed helmets, footballs, stuff like that, and do auctions. And most of the money was actually donated to our football team.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Nice.
he did a lot of that. I'll tell you guys off air who he is, but because if I say it, then someone's gonna find where I'm from, and I don't want that.
Don't dox yourself, Amos. Don't dox yourself.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I'd say that's me. I've actually seen it in action. So you could say NFL players do put their money where their mouth is. And they're not just a whole bunch of hot air, a bunch of air just fluffing up all these issues and not actually doing anything. So it's like they're better than Hollywood actors.
I agree. Totally agree. Totally agree.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, Mike, as I say, we're over here in the UK. We don't have a First Amendment out here in the UK. In fact, our legal system, as sharing some points with you, it's kind of ridiculous. But I wanted to know if you knew about Trump's visit to the UK not that long ago. And as part of the protest, they had the baby blimp of Trump. It was a small balloon.
I remember that.
With him in a diaper. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they consider that free speech because it's against Trump. What you may not know, what you may not know is yesterday.
The SADIQ one?
Yeah, the mayor of London, who is SADIQ Khan, they put out a balloon of him dressed in a bikini. Now, this is a Muslim mayor who recently banned bikini advertisements throughout the entire of London, right? Because it's offensive and body shaming and all that political nonsense. But we were actually shocked that they let him do it, right? Guy raised like 56,000 pounds. He got this, I don't know how big it was, 24-foot balloon, and he took it out there and they let him do it. And the protest that we got from the British public about that, they were fine with Trump, but when they did it to what would basically be the left in this country, which would be the Labour Party, I mean, the shitstorm that came out of it was just absolutely ridiculous. But we really need what you guys have with that First Amendment and that, the ability to express yourself. It's very important, man. It really is.
I agree. That's so are these people protesting saying that he shouldn't have been allowed to do that?
No, it was a test of free speech. So he basically said that the Trump balloon was free speach. So they'd be like, "Oh, really? How much free speech do we have?" Now, bear in mind, this is the same mayor who is initiated like a online policing of hate speech, and 6,000 people a year are arrested for tweets and comments on Facebook.
I heard about that. I heard something about that.
Yeah, this is the same mayor that's doing that. And he's cracking down on hate speech while we have mass stabbings and acid attacks. And we had more crime going on in London than in parts of New York, for different months and stuff like that. But hate speech is such a big thing. That's more important, where all the money's going to that. So that's the state of what we're dealing with out here.
Don't forget your porn
How do you have
pass.
stabbings? Wait, what?
Yeah. Don't forget your porn pass.
Yeah, the conservative government out here actually wants us to apply for a license to watch pornography on the internet. Right? I'm not even kidding, man. I'm like
don't they have to have a license to watch TV? Or is that just
there's that too. No, that's real.
Yeah,
you have to have a license to watch television?
Yeah, we have a television license out here. You're not allowed to watch TV without spending like 86 pounds a year to get a TV license. Yeah, that is really how it is.
Here they just make you pay a cable bill.
Yeah, this is on top of that. And it goes up every year. You guys have no idea how bad it is out here.
What is your justification for that?
It funds the national broadcast. It funds the BBC, which is our state-owned propaganda wing.
Right.
And they get £6 billion a year That's close to 9 billion US. They don't need it, right? They don't need that much money.
Yeah, it's funny that you call BBC state-owned propaganda, because here in America, some people consider BBC as like a legit source for news.
No, we know better.
So here's a question, Brooke. Who is more reliable as a news source, BBC or CNN?
Ooh. Ooh, that's a tough one. I'll say this. I'll say this. When it comes to American issues, I think the BBC is not as invested. So when it comes to British issues, they're socialists, they're communists, they're as far left as Stalin and these guys. So, but they don't know enough about American politics, so they tend to report the facts. But I mean, I don't have cable. I haven't watched CNN in years. The few things I have seen has been really embarrassing. But I think I would assume it's kind of the same. So they're trying to sway American politics, and probably if they report internationally, it might be reliable. But I think that's the best I can do. But they're both very slanted.
That's interesting. Just real quick, I was going to actually show the viewers real quick before we move on to our next topic, I guess we could say. So this is the article that Mike was referring to. Let's see here. Was this the one? Yeah, is this one, Mike?
Yep, that's the one.
It says by Linda something. I was like, who? But that's not you. Oh,
byline got messed up. I don't know how that happened. But.
Okay. So yeah, we'll be putting this link to this article in the description so everyone could look at. Because this is kind of
by Mike Nursery's person. Okay.
So this is pretty much, was this kind of one of the first, when we first started seeing the whole Colin Kaepernick controversy?
Yes. Yeah, that was the week after he kneeled the first time.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll be posting that in that there. But another thing was, I know, Mike, I mean, being that freedom of expression is such a huge topic, we were going to kind of get into, I guess, well, whichever one you wanted to get into, Mike. I know we brought up a few different topics.
I would also say that freedom of expression also coincides with private property rights. I'm sure you remember there was the Supreme Court case that came down, what was it, last month, about the Christian baker in Colorado.
Right.
The Christian baker who refused to make a gay wedding cake. I mean, I guess before same-sex marriage was made legal across the country, this couple, they went to another state to get married, and then they went back to Colorado, and that's where they wanted to hold their reception. And they went to this bakery, and they asked this guy to make them a cake for their reception, and he refused, saying that it went against his beliefs. He was a Christian. He said that he did not believe in same-sex marriage, and said that he would not make a cake for that purpose because he did not want to participate in the reception. And I mean, he had a point that, yes, if he's providing something for the reception, then yeah, in a way he is participating in it. So he refused, and he was taken to court, and then the Supreme Court handed down their ruling and saying that he was within his rights not to bake that cake for them. As far as private property rights go, if somebody wants to make that misguided economic decision of turning down money for whatever reason, let them do it. For one thing, it's his business. Let him make his own business decisions. Two,
right.
I mean,
yeah,
go ahead, man. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, you don't need the government to get involved. I mean, I don't know what this guy's business is like, if he's taking a hit because people are upset and they're no longer going to his store, or if there are maybe some people who support it. Maybe he's seeing a business boom because they're doing it just because they want to own the libs. But I don't know what business it is. But I mean, let the free market work that one out. if people are upset about it, stop going to that business, stop supporting that business, and they're going to fail because they're not bringing in revenue to stay afloat. You don't need to get the government involved and have the government strong arm them and tell them you will bake this cake, you know.
Right. I mean, if you look at it though, I get what you're saying. I think his financial decision is not entirely misguided. Like, I think that someone had talked about so they were asking him to basically make them like a specific cake, like basically make a brand new cake.
Yes.
Like if he like just sold them a cake he already had done, like a blank cake, and they just bought that, that's one thing. But to make him make a cake brand new with whether it's some sort of a, you know, congratulations or something that basically he didn't agree with. Like if I was a shirt making guy and someone wanted to come in and they wanted me to do like a pro-choice t-shirt, and I just so happen to, you know, have whatever moral issues with it, and I just don't want to make that shirt. I'd probably tell them like, okay, you know, I'll give you like shirts that I already made, or if you want to buy the blank shirts and you go have someone else print it for you, but I'm not going to print this specific message that I disagree with.
Right.
I mean, that's, you know, I think I don't know, did he have to shut down his cake place? Not sure.
No,
I think he's still open.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think he might be in the news again, isn't he?
He's being sued again.
We were just gonna bring that up too. Yeah, that he pretty much was given, what was it? He won the case that he doesn't have to bake this cake. But now some trans couple, I guess, wants to have him bake a cake now. And
you know what? And okay, this guy is just a target now, because I'm pretty sure they walked in knowing the result they were going to get, and they went in there and they did it anyway. That is just ridiculous. Like, if you want someone to make you what I guess we'll call it a trans cake,
yeah,
go find someone who will make you a trans cake.
A trans cake, also known as a pie.
A pie that identifies as a cake.
Exactly. Maybe that's what it was. They wanted to make a pie. He goes, I don't make pies.
You're in Denver, Colorado. Denver is pretty progressive. You will find a place that will make you a trans cake, a pie that identifies as a cake. You'll find someone that will make that for you. Come on, man. Or come on, lady, or whatever you want to be called. I don't know who it was, but
that's exactly right though. Like Amos, what you were saying there, the reason the Supreme Court ruled in his favor, because I actually read the transcript of that. I was following the case for a while, and they did say that it's a narrow decision, right? If it is that he refused service to them on any grounds, that would be discrimination, and they would have said something. But exactly what you said is right. If they wanted to buy a cake there, or buy a cake and decorate it later and stuff, he had no problem doing that. It's just his skill, his services. He owns the right to his skills, and in this instance, and I'm pretty sure the trans issue will be the same thing. But it seems like in this day and age, the idea of management reserves the right to refuse service. I mean, we see that in restaurants all over my home country. You know, if somebody comes in who's belligerent and they're maybe drunk, you don't have to serve them, right? You don't have to do this thing. But it seems like these progressive voices are really trying to undermine, you know, that sovereignty, the property rights, the rights of service. It's not a right; it's a privilege to be served, and they're getting all that stuff mixed up, you know. So, interesting battles.
Now
yeah, and
oh, go ahead, Mike.
These, and like you say, interesting battles. These battles are not even consistent, because did you ever see the story about the guy in New York City who walked into a bar wearing a MAGA hat and the bartender kicked him out?
Yes, I did hear about that.
Yeah. Do you remember anybody having a problem with that?
I don't know anything about that court case.
No, I mean, people did. The news didn't.
Well, the news didn't, but I mean, I mean, Trump supporters did, but you know that, and the same thing applies again. The bartender who, I don't know if he owned the bar, maybe he did. If he was the owner and if he didn't want to serve a Trump supporter, well, he doesn't have to.
Correct.
I mean, it's, you know, this thing goes both ways, and like you call it, you know, you called it a battle. People are picking and choosing the battles they want to stand up for.
Selective, yes.
Selective outrage. But in the case of the guy wearing the MAGA hat who was refused service, the people who are up in arms about a guy not making a gay wedding cake, how do they feel about a guy kicked out for wearing a MAGA hat?
Yeah, they probably praise one and shame the other, you know, in total hypocrisy. It's the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
You never know. They might actually invoke private property rights and say, wow.
Actually,
what?
Yep.
But here's someone actually asked me this when I started talking about this. So people that I've talked to, a lot of people tend to like understand and agree when you really break it down for them. Like, okay, you can refuse service because of these reasons. And we got into a discussion because being a libertarian, when you really like tell people like you believe that to the furthest extent, like we see it as, well, it's just poor business practice. You don't want to do this. You don't want to serve that person. That's just, you know, you're not going to look good. We're just thinking free markets. And the people I've talked to, when they really get to it, they're more on like the feeling side, I'll just say, of the issue. And they're saying, like, someone actually asked me, said, would you, like, do you think, okay, if you believe people can discriminate on whatever grounds because private property rights, do you think there should be some sort of law? And again, yeah, law, more laws, another law to basically where businesses have to provide some sort of a signage or literature that basically shows who they discriminate against.
Should they have to?
Yeah.
No.
So because they were saying like, well, like if you take it to its logical end of you can do whatever you want with your property, your business, you can refuse for anyone for any reason. What if you're down south and a black person walks into a diner and they just don't serve you? Now in today's day and age, that's obviously it's racist. That's just not cool. That's just a horrible business position. But should you be given, like they're saying, well, if your logical end of this, you know, freedom, this property right, and you allow that, they were saying they're into basically help people not be embarrassed walking into places they're not welcome. There should be a law that businesses should state what their discriminations are. And I said, well, and so think about that. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit goofy, but I threw it back at them in a different direction. I said, what if I go into a grocery store and I claim there's discrimination because I can't find a star fruit in a Walmart? You've seen those like very exotic fruits. You don't find that in a Walmart. But what if I go in there and I claim discrimination? And because under this new law, you didn't put under the sign, and now you're discriminating against me. That was my basically where the slippery slope could kick in. Someone could claim discrimination because there could be more things like I could, you know, now you got to list everything you discriminate against someone. That becomes just more law, more regulation, more bullshit. But it was an interesting thing that brought up, like, if you like, okay, so should this baker put up a sign that says we discriminate, like we will not make cakes for gay weddings, trans weddings, whatever. And I thought, no. Just go to another bakery. And then anyways.
Well, I mean, that's the sign. Management reserves the right to refuse service.
Oh, it's got to be specific. That was their argument. It's got to be specific.
No.
Who do you refuse?
I think you cover it with that, because I don't know if you've ever been. Well, I don't know how it is there, but every car park that you go to, there's a sign in the car park like the premises is not liable for any damages to your car, or something along those lines. We see it in restaurants, maybe even in bars. They might say we're not going to serve people under a certain age. I think that maybe that might be a law. It might be different states. It might be mandatory and stuff like that.
Right.
So even if you don't necessarily go to federal law, contract law and the law of torts would advise the management to like let it be known in some capacity. So you don't need laws, just contract law and tort law really should cover that.
Right. No, I get what you're saying. Like, to me, to us, it makes sense. Yeah. People, like, businesses can do what they want, realistically. And because of what was set by this case with the baker, the Christian baker, people started, people I've talked to basically were, trying to say, well, now, like, you should be upfront about your discrimination. People shouldn't be wasting their time going to different bakeries, different restaurants, different places of business, trying to get service if people are given the right to refuse it. I'm like, well, first off, I'm thinking you probably just really, really think people are just that shitty that you're never going to find a bakery that's going to bake you a cake because you're gay, or serve you because you're in the South and you're black or whatever. It's like we're in a very different world now, but it was just an interesting thought. But then it just comes on to most people are not that unreasonable. I mean, even this Christian baker was very reasonable in his case to say, you can buy my cake. You can buy my cake, but I'm not going to make you a new one for something I don't agree with. So,
not only that, but I mean, like, you think about, have you ever seen how these people, like, the process of designing these cakes? I mean, these people are artists, basically. And they put a lot of time and a lot of effort, especially whenever you want something that has, like, design for a unique purpose, such as a wedding. If somebody wants a cake designed a certain way, I mean, you ever think about how much time goes into that? I mean, why would I put so much time and effort into something I don't agree with?
Exactly. I mean, but
nobody should force that. Nobody should force you to do things like that.
Yeah, and in that same instance, I mean, somebody is paying you to do it, but if you're like, how much harder you're going to put into something that you don't like doing? I mean, even if you are getting paid for it, I mean,
sure.
Right. I mean, it comes down to, like, I mean, if you're having a party and you invite a list of people, and one of those people, let's say, so you invite family, and one of your family members spots off a political idea that you just don't agree with, so you kick them out. Most people would say, well, I'd say almost everyone would say, well, yeah, that makes sense. It's your house. But when it comes to business and you invite the public to basically come in and, pay for your services, get food, whatever your business is, and you refuse someone, all of a sudden it's discrimination. Yeah. You got to go to court.
It could work. It could work the other way around, right? So if it is that the business has to serve the public, that should also mean that every person who walks through the door has to partake in the business. So in the case of a clothing store, you can't have anybody loiter and just look at the clothes. No, you have to buy something. So, I mean, it's just a disastrous precedent all around, right? You're just going to create way more problems.
Right. So you're saying, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm thinking about it.
It's crazy. But Mike, I wanted to get to, I don't know if you've heard about Alex Jones and what's recently happened to him.
Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a gift that keeps on giving.
I would love to hear your thoughts on the Alex Jones situation.
Alex Jones. First off, I wish he was still on a lot of these platforms just so I could listen to him. I mean, have you ever listened to Alex Jones? It's hilarious.
Briefly, but yeah, it's great.
It is hilarious. I mean, the stuff he talks about, I mean, first off, I don't know how many people actually believe what Alex Jones says, but because whenever you listen to him, I mean, what? Hillary Clinton is a devil worshiper who eats babies and feeds on, requires child blood to survive or whatever. I mean, he says some off the wall stuff. I mean,
Dude,
and of course, you know, the whole thing about.
It's the interdimensional child molesters, dude.
Yeah. Did he say something one time like Hillary smells like sulfur or something like that? Like, or he
something like that.
He heard Hillary smells like sulfur.
Yeah, some sort of lizard
yes,
person.
Also, yeah, the reptilians. Yep. Yeah. The reptilian people. But what was your question again? We're on.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we're talking about freedom of expression. And as we know, he's been knocked off all of these platforms and stuff like that. And I mean, President Trump has also weighed in on the matter. So I just wanted to hear your views on, you know, what has happened to him, and you know, what do you think? You know, how does that play into the freedom of expression?
Let's see. Where was he kicked off from? He was kicked off of Apple's podcasting app. He was taken from Spotify. He was taken from
Facebook, Google.
Facebook, Google, and they cited hate speech. I don't know what Alex Jones said that's necessary. I know he's under fire because of a lawsuit because he said that some Sandy Hook families were crisis actors and that the Sandy Hook shooting was a false flag. And I think one of the families is taking him to court over that.
Yeah.
As far as the whole hate speech thing, I mean, if they want to pull him from that, okay, fine. You can still listen to Alex Jones. I mean, you can go to his Infowars.com and you can still.
They took down his website as well.
Isn't it back up?
It might be back up now, but at the time they took it down. The hosting company.
I remember that. It was down for a while, then it mysteriously came back up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the pressure's mounted, and you know, when Trump starts tweeting things, they've actually reinstated a couple of his his stuff. But you know, just going on that line, like what happened to him and the outside intervention from Trump and stuff. Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, if Trump is going to get involved with that, he should stop. He should just quit going on about fake news media. If he's going to support Alex Jones, but oppose some other news outlets, Infowars.com is still up. So you can still go to it. Trump is another one of those.
Male vitality.
Donald Trump is another one of those. Is another one of those people who likes to choose his battles and choose what he gets involved in. And Alex Jones supports Donald Trump, so maybe that's why Donald Trump is supporting Alex Jones's right to free speech so much. Yeah. But as far as him being pulled from platforms, if you don't like it, don't just turn off that platform. I mean,
well, I mean, nobody's forced to listen to his podcast anyway. It's not like, you know,
no,
it's not like the news where you can't control the flow. So the only people who listen to Alex Jones are people who want to listen to Alex Jones.
Exactly. Or people like me who just want to hear what he has to say because
I mean, even that is because you want to hear what he has to say. So even that is you want to listen to Alex Jones, right? Even for entertainment,
right? Okay.
Value.
Yeah.
So
most people listen to Alex Jones for entertainment value.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think you should make that clear. Like, and I think he's kind of said like Alex Jones is not his real name. I think it's kind of like a caricature that he plays. So the Alex Jones character.
What is his real name?
I'm not. Maybe I got that wrong, but he talks about it as a character. So I never looked into it enough to really. But the whole eccentric, banging the table. So he says that's an act. He says that's him playing the role of this character.
So he said,
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
So he says, yeah.
But okay, even if that's the case, the people who want to listen to him want to listen to him. And from what I understand, I couldn't be wrong because I'm not really following it, but nobody complained who is like following him. Apparently, the pressure came from outside sources to remove Alex Jones, and it was obviously coordinated because they all took him down at once.
Right.
And just want to hear what you think about that. Like, what are your views, and do you think that's right for the corporations to do? And
well, I think one thing you have to consider, like, as far as who is this pressure coming from, and are these people who have a lot of influence on these platforms that took them down? Now, it wasn't the U.S. government who did this.
No. The implied implication was that it was the news network forcing them to do it.
It was the gay frogs.
I mean, CNN was cited in that, but I don't think there's not a direct link. But they're saying that pressure came from like the established media to remove him. That's the scuttlebutt, as they say.
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, that's just like, I mean, look at it however you want, but that's just a personal preference for me. I mean, if you don't like, I mean, it goes along the same thing as if you don't like Alex Jones, don't listen to him. I mean, I don't think, I'm not into this thing of, one big impressionable entity trying to pressure another big impressionable entity because they're doing something that said entity does not like.
Right.
I mean, I don't agree with that at all.
I mean,
So
it's
I'm
a
not
lie.
sure exactly.
We don't know if that's actually what's going on, but that appears to be the narrative that's coming out of this.
Okay. Yeah, I disagree with that.
But you'd
if you
say
don't like
that
Alex
a company...
Jones,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you don't like Alex Jones, don't listen to him, but let the rest of us listen to Alex Jones so we can laugh at him and laugh at the gay frogs.
Speaking of Alex Jones, so during that initial, like, where he got kicked off a bunch of platforms, you guys heard that I think the only one that kept him, the major social media, was Twitter. And then
Twitter,
Jack Dorsey made the whole statement about how, as much as he doesn't agree with Alex Jones and all this, he's still keeping him on because, people should still be able to listen to him. I heard recently, I don't know if someone said basically, I guess Jack Dorsey's meeting with Congress right now or something. He's under some...
I think Zuckerberg is going to meet with them again too. I think Facebook and Twitter are both going to testify before Congress. I'm not sure what for.
Because I heard, because a bunch of our friends on Twitter now are not shadow banned. They basically lifted a whole bunch of shadow banning for the time being.
Wow.
Because people brought attention to it.
Wait. So you're telling me you all personally know people who've been shadow banned on Twitter?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know people have been shadow banned on Twitter.
Okay, so that's a real thing.
Yeah.
There's the typical shadow ban where you can't be found easily. Like when you reply to a tweet, your tweet just doesn't show up in a thread.
Yeah, it doesn't show up there.
And then there's that new QFD ban, the quality ban. So if you're not tweeting enough, or if you're like following or retweeting other people, I know our friends or Hapa Supremacy, Nico, had some sort of what's called a QFD ban, something to do with who you follow or who you retweet. There's a ban with that. I don't know what exactly it entails. But there's like a whole bunch of different kinds of ways you can get banned besides the full-on ban, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
The term shadow ban was initially denied by Twitter as a real thing. And then you had websites popping up finding out that it's a thing.
Yep.
I mean, I remember it when Trump was elected. and of course he had his Twitter feed. So he had, like, I think, real Donald Trump, and then there's, you know, President of the United States. And people would, like, you know, of course he has supporters and he has detractors, which is fine. So you would expect to see both sides to the conversation. But anytime a positive comment was posted about Donald Trump, it was instantly removed from the thread of the conversation, and only the negative was there. Like, a lot of people documented it and stuff like that. So I know there's that influence, but I haven't heard much of the shout out. No, I don't really use a lot of Twitter, so I can't really say. But I mean, do we agree with that? Does Twitter have the right to say that you're violating the terms of service, which are vague, they're not clearly defined? They use the phrase hate speech, of which, you know, that could be anything, to ban people from the platform?
Well, I mean, for one thing, you have to consider who it is that they're shadow banning, for one. I mean, like, a lot of people on the right will say that they are shadow banning a lot of people who have that conservative mindset, or maybe even a pro-Trump mindset. Even, you know, some of our friends in the libertarian community have been hit with a shadow ban before because they're tweeting their opinions about things. So if it's only if the shadow ban is being applied to only people of a specific a specific point of view,
Ideology.
Yeah, a specific ideology. I think that's incredibly stupid, for one, because it is a public platform, and this is supposed to be a marketplace of ideas where we all share our opinions. If we agree, then we agree. If we disagree, then we disagree. Then just let it be. But if you're covering up opinions of one ideology, and then the other ideology is free to say whatever they want, because, I mean, there are a lot of things I've seen from people on the left who have said some. I mean, there are people who wish death on Donald Trump, and
No.
yeah. Are those people getting shadow banned? I don't know. Probably not.
No.
That's crazy.
But yeah, there are actually reported one time just because I can't remember who it was, but I reported somebody that wished death on Donald Trump just because I wanted to see something happen to him. Because I mean, if you tweet a death threat at a sitting president, how stupid are you? First of all,
the Secret Service comes.
They show up at your front door within the week.
Yeah, I mean, how incredibly stupid are you? But people are emboldened enough to do that now, and I don't know why.
I remember, back when Obama was first elected, at my high school, a group of kids started a Facebook group as a joke, talking about assassinating Obama.
Wow.
Secret.
Wow.
Nowadays, you have probably hundreds of thousands of Twitter accounts, all blue checkmark verified, that are joking about killing Trump, killing white people, and you don't hear about anything happening there. So,
that one instance of Madonna at some rally saying that she's thought about blowing up the White House. Did anything ever happen to Madonna after that?
Secret Service showed up. No, Secret Service showed up. They interviewed her.
Okay.
Seriously.
That was it.
Yeah, well, to see if she has intent, kind of thing, you know.
I'm just looking at this here. I found so there was like the typical shadow ban, but there's a new what's called the QFD ban. Basically, so there's the quality filter you can in your settings. You can actually filter your timeline on Twitter via the quality filter. I don't know if it has to do with swearing usually. Like if there's a swear word, it'll filter that tweet out. But there are people who are just tweeting in general, having whether it's more centrist, center-right, right-wing ideas, they're being filtered out too. Like just their account in general is being filtered, it looks like. So
Wow.
Yeah.
This is just on Twitter, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's such a tricky. I think it can be a tricky thing because on one hand, you know, yes, yeah, people can block and mute people as they please. That's just they can do that.
I was about to say, if only there was a way to block out opinions you don't like. But
that's already happening. I mean, if the
No.
left is pretty much controlling Twitter, they're blocking it out from everyone. So
even because they have like block lists where these people could download
yeah,
a list of people to block. You know, people being blocked they've never interacted with, right?
Right.
Yeah. Did you guys hear what happened to Will Wheaton's Twitter account?
I remember he threatened to leave Twitter. I don't know if he ever did. I don't know. He has me blocked. So
yeah, he can't find it.
Oh, he's gone.
He's gone.
He deleted his Twitter? Good for him.
I heard either he deleted it or someone, I don't know if he got in some trouble and got removed. I don't know. I mean, he pretty much made this whole...
I remember a couple weeks ago there was supposed to be that that thing called Deacta Day.
Or as I
where
call
Alex Jones is not being banned.
Yeah.
You call it what?
Deacta Gay.
Deacta Gay. I remember that. I remember that. I remember people who were upset about Alex Jones not being banned. They wanted to deactivate their account to, I don't know, somehow hurt Twitter. I thought Twitter would have been a nice place if they actually followed through, but I don't think they ever did. Twitter is a hostile jungle.
How many people are in Canada as a result of Trump? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean, some people, I mean, there's celebrities that rely so much on Twitter, they're not going to deactivate their Twitter. Or they'll do it. They'll do it one day, and then they'll like come back somehow.
It's virtue signaling, America's new favorite pastime.
Yeah. Freedom of expression includes virtue signaling. However much we hate that, it is still true.
All you can do is just make fun of it. That's what
we're getting a little close to our time. I mean, we still got a few minutes here, but then we talked about the NFL. We talked about the gay wedding cake, Christian Baker. I'm thinking I was like the gay baker. Speaking of just to touch on that quick, did you, Mike? Did you ever watch Steven Crowder's video on the Muslim bakers?
I did not.
Definitely look up Steven Crowder gay bakers. Sorry, not gay Muslim bakers.
Put the link below. Put the link below.
Yeah. So basically, Steven Crowder went, from Lauderworth Crowder went to gay bake. I keep saying gay bakery. Muslim bakers went to a Muslim bakeries and asked them to bake gay wedding cakes. There we go. And they all refused. He had them all on tape saying they refused. And they said, okay, so... Huh? Yeah, no outcry.
Where was the outcry for that? Yeah.
Correct.
Weird. He just went to these places and was like, hey, so like I'm marrying my, this is my fiance. We're getting married. Can you bake a cake? He goes, yeah, I'll bake a cake. And he goes, okay, can it say, congratulations, Stephen and whoever else? And they're like, no.
Yeah, a guy's name. A guy's name.
Guy's names, and they're like, no, we can't do that. Like, they didn't flip out or anything. They just, no, we can't do that. He went to, like, at least half a dozen, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
And this was, I think, right after the controversy really picked up. So, interesting. Yeah. What is it? Blasphemy laws there, Brooke?
I mean, yeah, you can't say anything about Islam out here without repercussions. Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy called Black Pigeon Speaks. He's on YouTube. He does some very controversial videos. He lives in Japan, from Canada, and stuff like that. And he basically brought to light the term anarcho-tyranny, which was basically the anarchy of the government not enforcing the rule of law and the tyranny of the government oppressing the innocent. And it was directed at the UK government. So on one hand, Lauren Southern, I don't know if you know who Lauren Southern is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lauren Southern is banned from coming to the UK on a national policy. Right?
I heard about that. Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, so I think she might go to court over the issue. But at the same time, we have like legitimate ISIS fighting generals that not only came to this country, they're getting welfare, they're allowed to bring like their 5 wives, they're getting housing, and no repercussions at all. Like just total double standard.
Don't they like there's like Muslims that are
Is polygamy illegal in the UK?
It is. So is female genital mutilation, but we have incidents of it all the time. They're not enforcing the law, which is the anarchy. They're not enforcing the law is the anarchy side. And then you got the tyranny side, which is anybody who speaks out against it, such as a very big figure out here is a guy called Tommy Robinson. He speaks about it all the time. All the free speech guys, they are being terrorized by the police and the justice system and other things like that for just stating facts, and everything's a hate crime, right? And that's the nonsense that we're dealing with at this point.
Okay, whatever happened to Count Dankula? Is he free to continue making?
No, well, he's still doing what he's doing. He's still making his videos. He's still, he doesn't talk about the Nazi punk thing all the time, but he'll give updates every now and then. So there was a 600 pound fine,
800 pound fine,
800 pound fine.
So he was found
for
guilty
teaching the Nazi salute to a dog.
Yeah, he was found guilty of.
So he didn't go to jail, which is nice, but he has to pay 100 pounds. He said, "Fuck it, I'm not paying." He's like, "I'm not paying shit for that." So he wanted to.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
The dog doesn't know what he's doing.
It doesn't matter.
So he went to try to appeal the case. He went to the appeal court. They denied his appeal. So he's going to go through, so he's going through some like other channel to be reviewed by another department to then go try again with the appeals. But he still hasn't paid the fine.
And he could go to jail if he doesn't pay the fine. If he doesn't pay the fine, he has to show up in court. They're going to ask him why he hasn't paid the fine. He's going to say he's not paying the fine. They might just give him a reprimand, or they could send him into jail or into prison for like a couple months.
It's funny how he's like, because he's gone round and round with this all the last 2 years, and he's just like, I might go to jail again.
But to answer your question, Mike, on the Count Dankula thing, yes, teaching the dog to do the Nazi salute. This is what makes this law so dangerous, which is why he's appealing it. The judge basically said, now I don't know if you've seen the video, but he states in the beginning of the video, he's doing this to piss off his girlfriend who loves the dog. So he turned it into the worst possible thing you could think of, which was a Nazi, right?
Yeah.
He clearly explains the context of the joke, right? And it's an anti-Nazi thing because he's admitting Nazis are bad.
Right.
The Crown prosecution in the case ignored the context. They basically said, and this is what makes this so dangerous, we, the court, will tell you what your context meant.
Yeah.
Which is, so basically they're saying context doesn't matter. If you say any of those Nazi things,
it is whatever they say it is.
Yeah,
it's not what you say it is. It's what they say it is.
Oh, you should find what they call the context. So what was it? They were saying that he was literally trying to promote Nazism in the UK. Something like
behind the guise of a fluffy dog. Dog.
He was going to like sway the masses with his Nazi dog and like gas stadiums full of Jews or something like that.
Yeah. The Crown prosecution lost their mind.
I mean, at first it was the initial sentencing was they wanted to do 1 year in jail, and the prosecutor wanted to do 5 years, and that's where he started stating his context of he wants to literally gas stadiums full of Jews in the UK.
Even though he never said that in his video.
No, I mean, oh well, he said gas the Jews. So I mean, you know, but yeah. By the way, he's still with that girl, and they're getting married. So,
so she wasn't too outraged by it then. Okay.
No, she's like really stuck with him through the whole thing. There's like, there was like pictures of them when they went to court, and I think like people tried to harass her and stuff. Like, how could you date a guy like this or whatever? But
oh my gosh,
there's even like if you look, he's shown people like he actually has a communist tattoo. He used to be a communist. Now he considers himself more center. But he actually was like kind of a young SJW like communist type. And he was like, that was another thing he was showing, like, I am not a Nazi, you know.
That's beautiful.
That's like if I got in trouble and, you know, us being like a libertarian, I go up and I'm like pointing at myself like with a, I don't know, like a Bernie face on my chest or something. No, I don't have a Bernie Sanders tattoo, everyone. Oh, no.
So he says.
But yeah, I guess we're kind of hitting the time here. But was there anything else, Mike, that you wanted to share that you really want to get into, or?
No, I think we hit everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was like I said, it's always awesome to have our guests on. Thank you, Mike, for coming on from Sarcasm and Liberty.
I will say that you can find me hosting the Sarcasm and Liberty live streams every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Please check out our channel. Please check out our content. You can also find us on Twitter at sarcasm_liberty. We're on Facebook, and we're also on Instagram. We're also on Minds now. Sarcasm and Liberty is new to Minds. Awesome. So if you're on Minds, stop by, check us out.
Yep. You can also follow Mike here at, is it just at Ginger Liberty?
At Ginger Liberty or at Mike Ursery.
So you're the Liberty Ginger, but your handle is Ginger Liberty?
Yes, because Liberty Ginger was taken. I don't know who has it.
You could maybe change it to the real Liberty Ginger.
If you want good sports takes, check out my main Twitter account at Mike Ursery. It's mainly just live tweeting local sports here where I work, but if that interests you, you can check that one out as well.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks, Mike, for coming on the show. Like I said, next week we're hoping, I guess hopefully scheduling works out. We're gonna have Mackenzie, she's one of the writers for Sarcasm and Liberty. She'll be on next week, Monday at 11 o'clock Central Time. And just to clarify for what Mike was saying, that's 9 o'clock Eastern Time on Wednesdays over at Sarcasm and Liberty.
Yes. Sorry, is Mackenzie's the redhead?
Yeah, she's the redhead.
Are we like singling out redheads now? Like, is this like the new theme for our guests?
And then the week after that, we are going to have the redheaded libertarian. I'm just kidding.
Amos, I think you just exposed the fetish, man.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Anyway,
awesome. Moving on.
Thanks, Mike, for coming on. Like he said, check him out. He'll be running the Sarcasm and Liberty live streams. Check out his Twitter, his main Twitter, the Sarcasm and Liberty Twitter as well as check out both myself and Brook's Twitter. Mine is at Amos Joe. Brook, yours is at Brook_Potter?
Brook_Potter, yes, that's right.
Right, okay. We're all on there. Subscribe to my channel, subscribe to Sarcasm Liberty's channel, as well as subscribe to Brook's channel. He's got the most subscribers out of the three of us. But exactly.
For now.
Right. So yeah, tune in with us next week on Monday at 11 o'clock Central Time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will see you next week.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.